All right. Hi. Okay, so we're just gonna, I think, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because it took me out of the view and now I'm watching myself as if I'm watching my page. So, all right, so we're gonna say this is take 2 for Friday, and welcome to Fertility and Family Building in Black Communities. As many of my followers know, I am a massage therapist who specializes in fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and also oncology. And so I've been doing a lot of events this week with regards to fertility awareness, education on fertility hiccups, which is the word I prefer to use to infertility, but to each his own. And this is also National Infertility Awareness Week. And coming out of Black Maternal Health Week, which was last week, we really wanted to be able to provide support and share the stories. I mean, that's about what it's a huge part of what National Infertility Awareness Week is. It's about sharing your story and really letting other people know that they're not alone and that there's someone else who is like me, who understands my journey, and that every journey is unique to the individual and the people that are on it. And I thought tonight we would have some incredible people, which I am like fangirling over here, because we've got so many amazing people from incredible organizations and backgrounds that are on. But just to give a shout out to all the people that are on, and then I promise to introduce them as we go. But we have Aladrian Wetzel, playwright extraordinaire. We have Kristin Young from the Tinina Cade Foundation. We have Erica McAfee from the Sisters in Loss organization. We have Tamira Dunn from Elijah's Hope Foundation. And we have Andrea Jones, who is the author extraordinaire of Carrying It All. I am so excited. I am so excited. Can you tell? I'm like all red. I'm like so excited that you guys are all here. It doesn't take much to make me happy, but I'm like, this takes a lot to make me red. So anyway, we have a lot of different journeys that we're going to share with you tonight, from abortion to miscarriage, to stillbirth, to infertility struggles, to journeys that are past, present, and future, and family building support of what that looks like from a financial perspective, and resources that go along with that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Aladrian Wetzel.
Wow. Thanks, Jessie. Hi, everyone, Facebook world, whatever. My name is Aladrian Wetzel, and I guess a little bit about my fertility journey. I think about 6 or 7 years ago, my husband and I decided to try to have this kid thing. We tried natural for about 2 years because we're in no hurry. Why not, right? And then after 2 years, we kind of figured maybe we should try to ask some questions and check out, see what's going on. We did several tests, and we came up with unexplained infertility, which I think is a load of horse crap, but whatever. So that was our first diagnosis. And then we did 2 rounds of IUI, and those didn't work. And we came to find out that we actually ended up having a male factor infertility. So that's the reason my partner and I are unable to have children. With some other tests and some other challenges and questions we asked, we figured that IVF was the right choice for us. And I did a cycle of IVF. I got 4 beautiful embryos out of it. Unfortunately, 2 of them ended in miscarriage, one at 9.5 weeks and the other at 8.5 weeks. The last 2 embryos actually didn't stick. Nothing really happened with them. And after that, after those 4 losses, I decided to kind of take a pause for the last year. And over just recently, my husband and I just went back to have a second cycle of IVF. And the COVID-19 stuff, but kind of had some delays in actually doing the transfer. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think the reason why Jessie asked me to be on this panel was after my first miscarriage, I think back in 2017, I was actually in a playwrights fellowship where I was writing a play about something completely different. I think it was about a race war or something like that. And while I was developing the play, I had this miscarriage, and I always used to write a lot when I was a kid. I liked to write poems. And so a poem to kind of express the feelings that I was having about being lonely, about being scared, and about being angry. And after I wrote the poem, I looked at it and said, I think that could be sure. So I rewrote it as a monologue, and I looked at it and I said, how could I rewrite that into a larger play? And so I actually wrote a whole scene based on when I had my miscarriage. I had a missed miscarriage. And so my fetus didn't have a heartbeat. And I kind of, during one of my sessions with the doctor. And so I wrote that whole scene just like it happened in real life. And I wrote the monologue to happen after that. And I had already written a short play about a personification of eggs and sperm, bring out that they're going through IVF and not going through the natural cycle of pregnancy. And so I decided to kind of piece at it staged in 2018. So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's all I've got for now.
Thank you. And I can say that it was quite moving to see the stage reading of the play. It was all inspiring, and definitely like it was palpable. So thank you for sharing that, Aladrian.
Thank you.
So next, I'm going to bring on Ms. Tamira Dunn of Elijah's Hope Foundation, an organization based in Baltimore.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to apologize in advance because you may hear my children in the background. That's why I keep putting my phone on mute. But I am Tamira Dunn. I'm the founder of Elijah's Hope Foundation. And it's an organization that I founded in 2015 after my loss in 2014 at 15 weeks pregnant. I am also the maternal interviewer for the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Board with the Baltimore City Health Department. So my responsibility is to interview women who've experienced the loss, 20 weeks or greater, and take back recommendations to the committee in hopes of preventing preterm births and other fetal losses. So I've been doing that for almost 2 years now, interviewing moms. And I'm also a rainbow mom, and my journey to motherhood is a little bit different. And do you want me to share that now, or do you want to wait?
Sure.
Okay. So I had my rainbow baby in 2016 through IUI. I did not start a traditional family, so I was not married. When I started my family, I originally started through foster care. So I became a foster parent when I first lost my son, and my foster daughter was 5 months at the time. She's now almost 5, and I've had her since then, and now she's permanently ours. But while I had her, I also started looking into other alternatives to being a mom, because I didn't want to wait till I got married. I wasn't in a relationship. All I knew is that I wanted to be a mom. So I looked at other alternatives, and I looked up something called single mom by choice. And I went through the procedure to have my daughter, who is now 3 years old. So it's a story that I don't tell many people because it's been shunned upon a little bit, but I'm not ashamed of my child or my journey. And I knew that I didn't want a marriage to define whether or not I have a child in this lifetime. So that's my story, and that's my journey.
Well, thank you so much, Tamira. Next, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Erica McAfee. She is the founder of Sisters in Loss, an organization that provides national support. And so I feel like, oh my gosh, we've got like fandom here. So anyway, So Erica, you can introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. Like Jesse said, my name's Erica McAfee. I'm the founder and podcast host of Sisters in Loss, an organization and community where Black women replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. And I started the podcast back in August of 2017, just looking for a voice as I went through my own fertility journey and fertility challenges. I lost 2 babies, a son at birth. I was 39 weeks pregnant, had been diagnosed with preeclampsia, and went through the laboring and delivery process, had a C-section, and my son was born not breathing. The doctors worked on him for about 40 minutes and, pronounced him dead and deceased. And we went through that whole process of what that grief looks like, actually going through a funeral process and having to break down his nursery and get to a place where we were ready to try again. So we tried again. We had another baby, got pregnant, got another baby girl this time. They did a lot of genetic testing to understand exactly what was wrong with my son and why his lungs did not oxygenate and didn't really develop the way they should have, even at 39 weeks pregnant. And baby girl was good up until 18 weeks. And at 18 weeks, I went into preterm labor and pretty much came to the hospital about 3 centimeters dilated. And the doctors told me that they could see the bag and there was nothing that they can do because at 18 weeks, I was not at vitality, which is 24 weeks. So I was going to actually have to birth that baby girl. So I went on ahead and had her, and she took her last breaths on me after I had her, and I was able to have her vaginally. And then we dedicated her body to science. So after those 2 losses, I knew that I had to do something different if I wanted to become a mom. So I went through the journey of lots of prayer, lots of meditation, lots of therapy until we got to a place where we're ready to try again. And then we had our son, got pregnant with our son, which is the baby I have on earth. It's my rainbow baby. And through that journey, obviously there's a lot more doctor's appointments, a lot more specialists looking at me, just trying to make sure that this baby was safe to carry. I ended up having major surgery at 19 weeks to get a cerclage, which is a cervical stitch to keep my cervix closed based on my prior loss. And I went up to about 32 weeks in that pregnancy with not any major issues. And I ended up going into the emergency room just because I was feeling some discomfort. Definitely wasn't labor pains, but it was something different as I didn't feel my baby moving. And come to find out, I actually was bleeding internally. I had a placenta abruption. My placenta completely detached from my uterus. The doctors had to end up giving me a hysterectomy in order to really save my life. I lost a lot of blood, had about 9 blood transfusions. I was in ICU. I almost lost my life. And my son was able to be revived as they delivered him and resuscitated. And as a result of that, he has cerebral palsy. So he is disabled as a result of not having oxygen to the brain during the birthing process. So out of all of that, that led me to being on a fertility journey where, I don't have a uterus, so I physically can't carry a child anymore. And I wanted to find other Black women, other women of color who are out there who were battling the same thing I was going through, whether it's just other fertility challenges, looking at what other paths to motherhood there were. Because there's no right path. As Tamira shared her story, which I love her story and I love when she shares it, is there's no right path to motherhood as long as we get there in that manner. So I wanted to talk about what surrogacy looks like, what does adoption look like, if I really wanted to freeze my eggs or actually go in and do that, what does that look like amongst us? And it turned into this podcast, and this platform had developed into a community with, events and conferences. And now we are embarking on doula training. So I also went back and became a birth and bereavement doula as a part of this and what people were needing in our community. So now we're training doulas, which is a big part of Sisters in Loss now, and I'm excited about it. But that's just a little bit of my story and my journey. And I'm so happy that you invited all of us up here to share a little bit about ours.
Thank you for sharing. I've got goosebumps because I'm like, it's like all the things. And it's, I think one of the things that sometimes when anybody goes through any type of loss is, how do I find community? And that is so hard. It is so hard. But what I have found from learning and listening is that specifically in Black communities, finding that support where other people are talking about this is a really big challenge. And getting people to feel comfortable to breaking the stigma that, yes, this happens. And so that was the huge defining reason of like really bringing you guys together tonight, is so that hopefully you can inspire other people to share their story. As you know, storytelling is a powerful medicine, as you said. So thank you for that. So whew, I should have brought the box of Kleenex, but I didn't bring the box of Kleenex. So anyway, all right, so Andrea, I'm going to introduce you, our author extraordinaire. If you can share your story.
So, hi everyone. My name is Andrea Jones. I am an author of Carrying It All. I went the self-publishing route. So my journey is definitely a little different from everyone else's. I'm actually in Erica's group, so it's good to actually see her face in action. I'm having like a moment too, but I'm controlling it. But I actually have had 4 miscarriages and 0 live births, as I've heard it's been called. My journey actually started, walking in this journey really began for me in 2018. So I often tell the story of me actually doing my 30 before 30 list. And on my 30 before 30 list in 2010, I recall going to a women's clinic and getting an abortion. And part of my 30 before 30 list was to actually go and get those documentation from that procedure, because it never sat well with me. It was never something that I really spoke about often. In my previous pregnancies before that, I did what I think a lot of women do. I jumped on the bandwagon of doing something to kind of overtake what was going on at that moment. So the first time after I miscarried, I think maybe 2 or 3 months later, I joined the military and I was off to basic training. Like, I signed up. 3 weeks later, I was like, we can go. I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. So for me, it was just masking what was going on and not even realizing that I was masking it. The second time, what was that? Carry the one. The second time was nope, that was another miscarriage. Every time I just did something to kind of just push it all to the side. So in 2018, when I received the results from, or the actual documentation and paperwork from that miscarriage or abortion, they actually, and I still have the paperwork. It's in my car. Like I refuse to take it out of my car because it's still like mind-boggling to me. But the documentation says that I was measuring at 6 weeks and 4 days, I believe, or 5 weeks and 4 days. And I was supposed to come in the time of the abortion. I should have been 8 weeks and some change. So when I called to confirm what I thought that I knew, that I thought that I saw, that I understood, they did confirm that it was possibly a miscarriage and that the doctors just wrote it off as an abortion. So from that, my whole everything just kind of started to just kind of crumble and get foggy and then resurface, and everything just kind of just came to fruition of just realizing that, one, how many other women has this clinic done that to, in saying, hey, you're getting an abortion procedure, but my baby didn't even have a heartbeat or a gestational sac. It was just literally a sac there. There was no fetus, there was no heartbeat, there was nothing. And yet they told me that I had a miscarriage, which in reality, and in the doctor world, that was a DNC. Right. So they led me to believe for almost 8 years or so that I had this abortion and I was this worst person on the earth and God wasn't going to bless me with any kids because I grew up in the church and I just knew that I shouldn't have been in there anyway getting an abortion. So I wondered how many women they've done this to. And I wondered how many other women were in my shoes and not realizing that we just masked and put things over top of our emotions, our feelings, our guilt, our pain. And I just decided I was going to create a journal. So it was initially it was just a journal. I was like, oh, just create these topics that just help someone kind of process their journey through and after a pregnancy, loss, in whatever facet. So some of the topics are like a letter of forgiveness to yourself, because oftentimes we blame ourselves. There were things to discuss, such as what you did with the things that you purchased for your baby after you lost the baby, how you told your family. There's several options for your partner to write in that journal to you. But the one thing that was critical for me was I had to insert my story into the journal. So it no longer became just a journal, but it became more of an interactive journal. Because the biggest thing for me was when I spoke to someone and they also shared their journey with me, it made me a lot more comfortable in sharing my journey in general. I had to see or hear someone else's story for me to feel like, okay, so I'm not crazy for feeling like I'm the worst person in the world. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only person that feels like that. I'm not the only person that walks around with this guilt. I'm not the only person that rushes back to work to try to find something to do with their time. So what I did was I inserted my story throughout the first 3 miscarriages into that actual journal, and through from journal number 1, entry number 1 to entry number 20. So there are different things for that. And so for me, it was different. I am not married, so I am more on the non-traditional route. However, last year, I actually had miscarriage number 4. And so miscarriage number 4, I didn't even realize that it sent me on a downward spiral. And I didn't recognize that it sent me on a downward spiral until maybe 2 months ago. And I realized that, oh boy, I was depressed. I would come home every day from work, come in my room, close the door, the TV's off, nothing is on, and I'm in my room just on my phone. No lights are on until it's dark. Not eating, not anything. And that went on for about 6 or 7 months. So it's literally since last August. I did that from August till about February. And it wasn't until someone kind of brought it to my attention that I realized, like, whoa, I disconnected myself from everything that I used to do. Everything from my nonprofit to my family to my friends. I was literally walking around depressed, but functioning and making people think that I was okay. Because I convinced myself that I was okay. And so I tell people now, like, it's okay to not be okay. And that's just where I am with my journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Kristin, oh, I am so excited. So I have been supporting and being supported by and kind of working with the Tinina Cade Foundation for this past year, and really getting to know a lot more of the work that they're doing. And so I thought that it would be really appropriate to have them be a part of this conversation tonight, because a lot of, and I'll let Kristin clearly share, but a lot of what they do is supporting family building, and through grants and education and support, and they're based locally in Baltimore and Owings Mills, so we're kind of like, we're like in the inn kind of thing, but they provide support nationwide, which I think is like really incredible for us to have this resource in our own backyard. So anyway, okay, you do your thing.
You did a great job. Thank you so much, Jessie. Well, yes, I do represent the Tinina Q. Cade Foundation in Owings Mills, Maryland. And our main focus is to support families overcoming infertility. So it has been an absolute joy to work with this organization. The story of our founders, unfortunately, one of our founders, she was not able to be here this evening, which is why you have me. But she has quite an amazing story of how she and her husband journeyed through their infertility, going through trials after trials of attempting to get pregnant, all different kinds of ways. And after 5 years, her mom actually decided to suggest carrying, she said she saw some program, it was like 60 Minutes or something along those lines, about someone who carried her daughter's children. So she offered to do the same. And Dr. Hammond and doctors Jason and Camille Hammond, they said, no way, it doesn't sound safe. You know, she was already menopausal at that time, her mom. So they just continued to look into some other resources. And eventually they just decided, you know, her mom was very persistent. She's a very persistent woman. And they finally decided to say, okay, and went through that process. She carried triplets and was able to deliver those triplets at the age of 55. And it is, it's just an awesome story. And from that journey, Dr. Jason and Camille Hammond decided that they wanted to give back. They were looking for opportunities. How can we give back? How can we support others who are going through this exact same thing? Because they were in a position where they were, you know, in mounds of debt. They have gone through IVF treatments. They have gone through all different, they exhausted their finances. And there are so many families who are in that position, or they are afraid to pursue IVF or even adoption in some cases, because they feel like they can't afford to build their family. So so that's how the Tinina Q. Cade Foundation, which is the name of Dr. Hammond's mother, that's how they founded this organization. And we support families, giving up to $10,000 towards grants and in grants towards IVF through adoption. And I love what was shared earlier, because we do not focus on family size, or, you know, you can be a single parent, you can be married, you know, you can be partners, however you choose. And we do offer the grants throughout the US. So anywhere in the US, you are eligible to apply for these grants. And it's just an amazing opportunity. My position is to work with those who have received the grants in order to keep them engaged, keep them informed of things that are going on, support them through their process. Because one of the things that we see so often is that people are excited, they get their grant, they feel like this is their next big step and their finally moment. And unfortunately, it's not the end. Sometimes it is still that comma. So being there to support them through the next leg of their race, the next leg of their journey, is so empowering to me, and it's very humbling experience. I am a rainbow mom myself, but I have two amazing little girls. And it's just such a blessing to be able to support families going through this process and getting to their finally moment, to, you know, for those who adopt their forever families. It's just an amazing opportunity. So I'm excited to continue working with the Cade Foundation, and thank you, Jessie.
Yeah, thanks. I've got goosebumps, you guys. Like it takes a lot to give me goosebumps. So today's been the day of goosebumps, from when I got the call from Dr. Hammond, and then now hearing all of you guys. So what I want to ask you is kind of like why, you know, we're here again is, you know, of the stigmas that take place in Black communities around loss and infertility. You know, what are some of the things that you would want someone, if they're watching right now, what is your takeaway message to, you know, that they're not alone, or how, I mean, granted, we're going to list like all the organizations that everybody's a part of when I can get to edit the thing. But anyway, but what would be your takeaway that, you know, for them, what do you want them to leave this evening with? Ooh,
I guess I can say something. I think something that they can leave this evening with, and something that really helped me. I tend to be somewhat of a private person. I'm like a private person who's also an open book, which is really strange. I tend to be really open about a lot of exciting things or good things that happen to me, but I tend to kind of keep the sad things or things that make me upset to myself. So I would say one thing that really helped me was just talking about it. When I had my first miscarriage, the first instinct was to, just like Andrea said, was to kind of keep moving. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't say anything. I kind of swallowed all of it down, and it didn't help anything. It only made me feel worse. And so the thing that really helped was just talking about it. If someone were to ask me what's wrong, I say, instead of saying nothing, I said, I had a miscarriage. And I felt guilt and I felt sadness, and that's okay. And more open about it and not being closed off. I don't know if it, like that, that's been helpful. Also writing it down. Sometimes writing kind of helps you kind of get it out of yourself. So you're not keeping whatever is making you uncomfortable or making you sad inside of yourself. Sometimes seeing it on a piece of paper can help kind of make the feelings feel more real, I think.
Says the playwright. When her show makes it big, y'all need to go see Infertile Ground because it was amazing. Saying, if I may say so myself. Anybody, Tamira, did you want to share?
Yeah, so I'll share. So I will say that continue to share your story, continue to acknowledge your baby. I know that a lot of times with the women that I helped in the support group, they would say that they didn't feel like they were a mom because if they had a miscarriage very early on, family, friends didn't really acknowledge the baby because people would say, oh, you can just have another baby. In my case, at 15 weeks, I didn't get the memory box from the hospital. I didn't get the footprints. I didn't get the handprints. And then when I met other moms along in my journey of healing, I realized that some hospitals do give footprints and handprints at that gestational age. So I was hurt because I kind of missed my opportunity because I did not know that could happen within the hospital. So I would say to just acknowledge your baby. Doesn't matter if you were 5 weeks or 40 weeks, you are still a mom. That baby did exist. And I was nervous to share my story or my journey about motherhood on your live, and I inboxed you and told you, and then ended up sharing anyway. But I remember the first time I was a part of a blog where I mentioned it in the blog, and I had a friend reach out to me and tell me that she had been thinking about it and that I kind of just encouraged her, and I think we became even closer from that. So just continue sharing your story. You never know who you're going to help. Acknowledge your baby, and you are still a mom no matter what.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share anything for that? Don't worry, I got questions. The questions are coming.
So I'm a little sassier than these ladies, a little bit more sarcastic probably as well. And so with me being in the military, I work with a lot of men in particular. So I have my advice for people who are a little sassy maybe. I embrace the uncomfortability and I return it. So when I get asked like, hey, when are you going to have kids? Why you don't have kids yet? You getting old. Why? Like, I got 3 kids and I'm 24. Why you don't have no kids yet? You 31. And I'm like, oh, when my uterus decides it wants to stop miscarrying, I'll have some kids. And they're like, well, okay. Well, okay. No, we're even. Look at that. Don't ask me anymore. Okay. So to me, I embrace it and I return it. So, to each his own. I guarantee you they'll stop asking people when they're going to have kids.
I think with that, it also comes to like you don't want to say that you're confident in your story, but own your story. And I think that's part of what I think across the board is a big piece of it is like, it is my story and it did happen to me and it was something I experienced. So I can't hide the fact that it happened to me. I mean, whether or not I share that story is a different thing, but it is still my story. And why not just be honest with that. Yeah.
But it becomes very uncomfortable when people ask that question and you then start to, in yourself, there you start to crumble because it resurfaces everything. So you start to feel that guilt and that pain all over. And to me, now that I am older, and I just return it because I refuse to just sit in my feelings and you not know how that affected me. So now we can have a conversation, because now that's a conversation started because it made you uncomfortable. Well, your question made me uncomfortable. So let's discuss it, because while fertility and infertility may not be a challenge for you and your wife or your partners, it has been for me. So now I'll educate you because you won't ask that question again.
Yeah. And I think maybe even part of, Erica, if you wanted to touch on it, but you know, it's like when you go through this journey, you know, as a Black woman, it from what I have heard, because clearly I am a white person, so this is me from what I have heard, you know, it can be hard to have that conversations of comfort, to want to share your stories because of the stigmas that are associated, that Black women have babies, they don't struggle with fertility, and no one talks about fibroids, and no one talks about like miscarriages or any of those other challenges. And so how do you, is that something that, you know, like sharing the story, is that part of the conversation within Black women with Sisters in Loss that you engage in?
Absolutely. I think that everything that we're talking about as far as being open and sharing our stories, just to know that we're not alone, helps engage in conversations, but it does promote healing in general. I think that you have to get to a place where you're sassy like Andrea, where you can say and take that power back and put it back towards someone. But it takes a while to get to that place where you're willing to open up and be a little bit more boisterous about it if it's not already a part of your personality. So within Sisters in Loss, we share everything. I mean, some people share a bit much more than we want, but I think that it helps everyone in their healing process by being able to really speak truth to power in our experiences. Really, what I've seen is that a lot of people were not sharing their story until a lot more celebrities or notable figures started to come out and share. Most notably for me, with getting guests to come on my podcast, was around when Michelle Obama released her book in November 2018. That's when I saw everybody. I mean, that's really when I got an influx of people, of more Black women and women of color being willing to share their fertility challenges or their journeys to motherhood, just because they saw someone that they admire be so open and frank about her struggles with fertility and going through IVF, to have her 2 babies and experience a miscarriage. So I think that helps, seeing a lot more people that we admire, that are celebrities, that are sharing their experiences and journeys with us, whether it's on television, through reality TV, or just in our general just admiration and following them on social media. I think that helps. But also, especially when you don't have friends that are close to you that have gone through something like this, having an online presence and having an online community where you can go to and just get it all out and ask those tough questions that you may not be able to ask other people, helps you at least process it and say, hey, I got some people that I know online. I have some people that I probably can go meet in face to face in a support group, a local support group that really understand this mess, you know, because it's going through any type of journey is always 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. And you have to have that strength and tenacity and people that are cheering you on and rooting you on and pushing behind you as you are resiliently going through it. So I love what Andrea talked about, just in triggers in general, where people may say things to you that may put you back in a deep, dark place of your grief or your journey. But to be able to fight that and take that power back and be like, hey, let me educate you. So how do you really turn that deep pain into some type of purpose movement where you're giving back in some way, shape, or form, whether it's starting a nonprofit like a lot of these ladies are, writing a book, or starting a play. You know, I mean, we all have done something creatively to turn our pain into some type of purpose. And I think that is what it's ultimately all about. You know, you definitely want to be able to help someone on this. You know, I don't think that God sent us through any of this for us not to learn something and be able to give back in some kind of way. So I love the power of sharing your story. Everybody's story needs to be told. Everybody.
I wanted to say one thing, Jesse. I know, again, all of us are very strong Black women, and I'm sure we have strong Black woman mamas too who support us. But I actually leaned on my mom a lot during a lot of my infertility struggles because my mother also had infertility struggles. I'm an only child. My parents got married at 22 and had me at 35. So my mom had endometriosis. She had issues with her ovaries. My dad had some male factor issues. A few years after I was born, my mom had a hysterectomy. So when I was kind of going through a lot of this stuff, it was talking to her and kind of seeing how she kind of went through it as well. So that was very helpful. But Erica's point about when Gabrielle Union came out and said that she was having trouble, that helped me be a little bit more vocal. And I'm already a sassy person. Jesse knows, I've known her since I'm 12 or 13. But that made me even more sassier, just like Andrea. If people started asking me before, I used to say, I'm trying, we're having difficulty. After that, I was like, look, I have infertility. We're trying, we're doing what we got to do. My husband's sperm is a little shaky. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say what was really powerful about going to the play that Aladrian had done a stage reading, and the conversations for the talk back like after, and hearing people share their story and just how they connected through the power of the storytelling. I think that even if someone isn't necessarily comfortable sharing their story, just hearing somebody else's, like Michelle Obama and Gabrielle Union and other people, like, it's like, okay, like it's not just me and they look like me, and that I know I'm not the only one. And I think that that's something that is like a common theme. Kristin, I actually have a question for you. It's come through, so I hope you're ready. So are there any age restrictions for the grant and also for IVF? I'm single and 45 years old, no children with the history of a miscarriage. I want to try to have a baby again, often discouraged due to age. Hold on. Hold on. Whoops. There's more to it, but it won't. Oh, and due to age and no partner. So what can you say about that?
So the question is, are there any age restrictions? And the answer is no. The only qualification that is required for the Cade Foundation grant, family building grant, is that you have a medical diagnosis of infertility. So that is the only requirement that is necessary. So again, whether you're single, whether you're 18, whether you're 45, that part does not matter. So there is a screening process, there is a selection process, but the only requirement is that you show that you have medically been diagnosed with infertility. So I encourage you, for our particular grant, we offer grants twice a year. February 1st and July 1st of every year are the due dates for applications. So if that is something that you want more information about, I encourage you to go to the Cade Foundation, cadefoundation.org/grants. And there will be information there about our grants. And again, the upcoming date is July 1st. But all the information will be there for the application and information that you need on that. So please do not give yourself the blues. We as women, we are down on ourselves so much, and we're always trying to give ourselves these unnecessary excuses, unnecessary labels. So what if you're 45? I mean, and especially now in the society that we're living in, having children at 40 plus is way more common than it ever was. So 45 is a great age to be a mom. You want to be a mom, that's what you're going to do, and that's your goal. So make it happen however you need to make it happen.
Thank you. I think that definitely answered her question. All right, I've got one more question because I want to make sure we keep everybody in like a nice little time frame here. For those of you who have partners, how have your partners coped? And what, if you have, And what changes have you seen in them that made your relationship stronger? I see Erica's ready to say something. No? You guys are all really thinking hard about that.
Well, I guess I'll say something. I think that everybody copes so different, right? I think that one thing that I learned is that we grieve differently. Where I grieved and coped and kind of went inwardly and really didn't express myself and wasn't as vulnerable as he may have been. He was the complete opposite for me. And we had to learn how to honor and support each other during that grief period of time and how we coped and what our coping mechanisms were. And even more so, I guess, throughout the whole journey, not even just with that grieving process or when we went through our losses and then going through having a child with who's medically fragile, who has a lot of other issues, you know, I still think it's a grieving process. So I think that we both had to learn how to really communicate through that. And when it comes to I'm trying to think of some other ways that we went through. I mean, therapy really helped. I mean, I guess really it's the borderline of how we went through our process. I think that we still have we're still in a place where we disagree on like the next step of the process, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I think that where we are now, we know we have to do what's best for our son. So we both come together and talk about just our grief for him, because we've both had expectations of what it was like to have a child. That's not, let's say, a child that has a disability, a child that, you know, will be our forever child. So that's a whole nother grieving process that we both have to go through. And we both have to learn how to communicate that and articulate that in a manner that is, you know, calm and not hurtful to the other person. So I think in just overall in life, going through losses and then going through having a child that's medically fragile, communication has been key, to be honest with you. And communication is going to continue to be key into moving forward in your partnership with someone.
And one of the things that I want to encourage people is just to understand that, especially when you're dealing with a couple, don't assume that he knows what, or your partner knows what you're going through. Because a lot of times it's like we're in it together, but then you also feel kind of alone because you're the one who's physically going through the challenges. You're physically there every second of every moment of everything. Whereas, you know, your partner may be there beside you, but it's nothing like physically going through the experience. So as you said, communicating, counseling, I'm always a big advocate for counseling. But just really just staying in tune with one another and being honest about and very clear and open about what it is that you're feeling, what is changing in your body, what's happening emotionally, mentally, because you know your partner is there. Your partner may have his or her own feelings about the situation, but it's still nothing like going through the process itself. So just being mindful of keeping those communication lines open. And I suggest it, if not daily, at least weekly, just having a very open conversation. This is what's going on with me in general. This is what's going on with me around this situation. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. This is how you can support me. And I think that is one of the biggest pieces that we miss, because unfortunately, sometimes we don't even know how we need to be supported. But in the cases where we do, it's not always communicated. So just letting your partner know, we're in this together. This is how you can support me through this. This is how we can stand together against in front of other family members, other friends, because a lot of people genuinely don't mean any harm, but they cause so much harm. They cause so much friction, and it can over time create unnecessary tension within your partnership. So I just encourage people to make sure you continue to stay in communication, but be absolutely clear about your plan of action for what you need for your relationship, what you need for your life, what you need for your personal family building journey.
Well, to speak on that, we have a therapist who is watching, who specializes in maternal health. And she wants to know, for those of you who did attend therapy along the way, what was the most helpful thing your therapist did to help you?
So I'll share. I did do therapy for a while, and I guess one of the most helpful things she did was just allow me to continue to share my story over and over again. I quit several times on her, but she allowed me to keep coming back. But I think I kept quitting because I wasn't really ready. And she did help me to understand that I was throwing myself into stuff to take away from the pain. So whenever something drastic happens in my life, I throw myself into some type of project, some type of work to take my mind off of things. And she would bring me back to reality sometimes, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? You may be moving too fast. It's okay to feel the pain. So she made me stop in my tracks and actually realize what I was doing. So she let me know that it was okay to feel the pain. And in the beginning, I did not want to feel the pain. I just wanted to hurry up and get back to some type of normalcy, I guess. So.
Yeah. Anybody else? Erica, did you want to share?
Oh, so I guess the one thing, if I can dwindle it down to one thing, I think therapy in general, and even today, I mean, I'm still in therapy, has helped me unlearn a lot of the things that have hindered me moving forward. Unlearn a lot of my thought process, not trusting my body when it comes to going through pregnancy, and then now with my fertility journey. And it just really helped me understand that, it's not me, there's things that are outside of my control, and that I'm okay, that I have to be okay with it. So I just had to learn how to unlearn some of those negative thought processes that we go through. So that's what I love about therapy.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do now is open it up if anybody has anything else that they would like to share. If you have something that's coming up with your books, with your play, with your organization, something that you want people to know about. And I promise that they're going to be able to find you. I'm going to tag everybody in the post after, so I'll include all the links. But if you have something, and you guys that just talked about therapy, you answered the question, so she's very happy. Thank you for sharing that. If there's anything that you want people to know that you have coming up with the work that you do.
Well, I have one thing. It's not anything coming up really, but I just wanted to say I've enjoyed being a part of this panel, and seeing and talking to other women who look like me, who have gone through this. I've tried to go to different, group counseling or group sessions, and two reasons why I didn't really like them. I'll be honest. One, I really like talking in a big group with a bunch of strange people. That's just me. I am before I felt comfortable opening up fully. And the second reason is because the few times I've gone to the groups, I didn't see anyone who looked like me. And so it's just something just felt off. just, not just the vernacular or just not how we were talking with each other. Just it just didn't feel comforting. And being a part of this panel and seeing you women and meeting you and finding out about your organizations that I didn't even know existed is extremely helpful for me. So I just wanted to put that out there before I forgot.
Oh, that's good. Well, on that note, let me just give a quick mention of some of the other organizations. So we have Sisters in Laws that Erica runs, and then we also have Fertility for Colored Girls, Dr. Reverend Stacy Edward Dunn runs, and then we also have the Broken Brown Egg is another really good organization to follow as well. And I think that those are the bigger organizations that I do follow and wholeheartedly do recommend from other people suggesting me to start following them as well. So I'm grateful, Aladrian, for you sharing that, because that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this panel, was so that other people could see someone else that they could connect with. So I'm truly touched. So thank you, Aladrian, for sharing that. So what events does anybody have coming up?
So I'll jump in real quick. As I mentioned, the Tinina Cade Foundation, we have our grants. The next date for our 2020 grant is July 1st. So again, cadefoundation.org/grants if you want information about the grant. We also do a broadcast twice a month called Coffee with Cade. And it's very similar to this type of situation. We'll have generally 1 to 3 panelists or guests on at a time to talk about various topics in infertility. So we do it on generally the first and third Monday of every month at 12 noon Eastern time. So May 4th and May 18th are our upcoming events. And it's a 30-minute conversation, but it's just an opportunity to learn more and to see what a lot of times in anything, we don't know what resources are out there. We don't know what information is out there. So it's a great way for us to bring the information to you on your coffee break, your lunch break, whatever it is in these Corona times, your morning break. But yes, it's at 12 noon. So we have upcoming, actually have a panel of men talking about the male perspective of infertility. So that we're doing on May 4th, and then May 18th, we're talking about faith in infertility and how to maintain your relationship while you're going through the process. So those two things seem to have kind of just come up in this conversation. So I just wanted to share. Those are our next 2 topics for Coffee with Cade.
I highly recommend checking out the Coffee with Cade, and all the past previous segments are on their Facebook page.
Yes, including Jesse's
segment.
segment.
We did one in November, so I can say it was like so nice, but they're all so informative. So whenever I wasn't with a client, I always made sure to watch them because they're really good. Like this past Monday was talking about fertility and CBD since it was 420. So haha.
Yes.
So, but that was a really great conversation. So anyway, so I'm glad that you shared the Coffee with Cade segments too. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Erica, do you have anything that's coming up? No? Okay.
No, nothing major. Just follow our Facebook group, join our group at sistersinlaws.com and listen to the podcast.
Got it.
I think she's lying. Erica, is it too late to sign up for the doula and bereavement training?
She said she's lying. We're already into it, but I'm gonna relaunch it in June. So stay tuned for that. June, Andrea.
Sheesh.
But right now we're in a session, and it's going well so far. So I got about 20 ladies that are in the first cohort. So I'm excited about it.
That's really exciting. Now this is for the bereavement doula.
Yeah, birth and bereavement. Yeah, absolutely.
And we always need more bereavement doulas. On a side note, so Tamira was in a documentary that
she was.
And it is Don't Talk About the Baby, which we showed on Wednesday night. And and I've stated numerous times, so if you're in the Baltimore area, stay tuned for whenever it is that we can get together in person, and I'll have another screening. But Tamira was one of 3 Maryland families that was part of it, and in there they definitely honed in on the value of bereavement doulas, and I thought that was like a really unique touch that you wouldn't necessarily think that you were going to see in a documentary about loss and infertility. So yeah, so that was our real time of getting together. Anyway, Tamira, do you have anything coming up for Elijah's Hope?
No, I'm still debating on if I should start planning the walk. We do a pregnancy and infant loss walk in Baltimore City every year. But it's with everything going on, I really don't know if we'll do it this year, which I'm a little sad about, but I am doing the doula, birth and bereavement doula training with Erica, so I'm excited about that. So.
Oh, awesome. And are you running any, I know that you have in the past, are you running any Rainbow pregnancy after the storm support groups?
Yes, so after this election, I'm going to get back into the Rainstorms to Rainbows support group that I started, and it's for women who are pregnant after a loss. So hopefully the election is June 2nd, so probably in September, we'll start a new cycle of R2R. So.
Well, you know I'm going to share it, so we'll be in.
Yes, I'll send you more information.
Andrea, do you have anything coming up with your book?
Okay. It's just there on the website, looking how it's looking, along with my Mind Your Own Uterus t-shirts, so, and My Body, My Business, and some Hope t-shirts. So that's it. The book tour is on hold, so.
Your website is, just so everybody can hear it.
Oh, it's so complicated. It's carryingitall.com, which is the title of the book.
So complicated.
People, I don't know.
Awesome. Well, I am so honored to be able to have held this space for all of you guys this evening. And thank you so much for being raw and honest and open about your journey. And I see that you definitely have provided a lot of inspiration and touched a lot of lives just by being you. I know I'm really grateful for that. And everybody who follows my page knows that I share all these organizations on the reg. So not to worry, you'll be.
Yes, you do a great job. Thank you.
You're welcome. But thank you all so much. And if
Jesse,
second, I'm going to go ahead and sign the book event.
I was going to say one thing. You'll be the Jesse. You'll be the first person I let know when I ever finish my draft for Infertile, and if I ever get a chance to produce it. So I'll let you know.
It's happening. We're going to find the funding. We're going to find the right theater. It's going to happen.
Eventually.
All right. Well, hold on, panel, and I'm going to go ahead and hit end our live. If it will let me. Oh, dear goodness. Oh, dear goodness. Oh, really? Oh my goodness. Now it won't let me end it. Okay, hold on. Okay, I got it. All right, we're gonna